Hi Booktube, my name is Swan, I am just one reader, and today I want to talk about the Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb. This video will contain no spoilers, for it is a very introductory kind of video. I want to essentially tell you why I would recommend Robin Hobb as an author in general, even though I am not an expert in Robin Hobb by any means, but I also want to talk specifically about the Farseer Trilogy, its positives, its negatives, and why overall I really think you should read it. So let's start at the very beginning. Let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. What is the Farseer Trilogy? Well, the Farseer Trilogy is the first trilogy in a number of series written by Robin Hobb, which compose the realm of the Elderlings, which is this kind of super universe that she's created. And this is, I think, the best entry point to her realm of the Elderlings. So, in Assassin's Apprentice and in all of the Farseer trilogy, we follow the character of Fitz. He starts as a very young boy coming to this castle, and he learns that he is actually a bastard to one of the princes of this kingdom, and he's taken to the castle and he has to, build a new life and learn about himself and learn about the world and the people around him and court. There's a lot of court drama, political intrigue, political sort of machinations. There is a lot of drama, both on a personal level and on a political level. There's war happening at the same time, and it's just that kind of quote-unquote classical kind of fantasy story. So what makes the Farseer trilogy stand out? What makes it special? Well, there's a number of things that I think are really positive, and they are the reason why I recommend that you read the Farseer trilogy. Number one is the prose, the authorial voice, the way that Robin Hobb crafts these beautiful, almost melodic sentences and paragraphs, and you become really immersed in a beautiful writing style that is highly evocative, very imaginative, and has a kind of soft edge to it. In some way, that's how I would describe it. Secondly, Robin Hobb in this particular trilogy uses a first-person narrative. So we get to see the world and the story from the direct point of view of Fitz himself. And Fitz is a character that some people find a little annoying sometimes, but I never did. I really loved him tenderly, and I really sort of took a liking to his character, and I thought it was a very tender portrayal of a character. Love the characterization of all of the characters in the trilogy, most of the characters in the trilogy, except for some characters in book 3. But the characterization overall is really great, and the character of Fitz, our protagonist, is just really well executed, I think. And it's really nice that we get to see and experience everything through Fitz's eyes, because we really get attached to him. Number 3, I think another really positive thing in the Farseer books is it just has a lot of heart. I don't know how to say it with more professional sounding words, but it really has a lot of heart. I have tried to read some fantasy lately, and it has not been very successful. I tried reading some Brandon Sanderson. I do not like that at all. I don't think it's really good, or good at all. I also tried recently reading the Blade itself by Joe Abercrombie. I really hated that. It was just not for me at all. And coming to Robin Hobb and reading the Farseer trilogy, it just has a lot of heart. There's something warm, and even though many horrible things happen to the characters and to Fitz specifically, and it's a trilogy that is filled with really horrible, sad, depressing stuff, it just has a lot of heart and passion. Number 4 is that it's all about the characters. This is really good, fantastically well-written, character-driven fantasy, and that's really why we care about books, readers like myself. I don't know if this is true for all sorts of readers, but I particularly I'm a reader who really cares for the characters and the points of view. So if you like character-driven books, this is for you. And finally, another thing that I think is really, really wonderful about the Farseer trilogy is the magic. These books don't have a lot of explicit, overt, spectacular, showy magic in them, but the magic that is in there, which is essentially two kinds of powers or skills. One of them is actually called the skill, which is more like a mental sort of telepathical connection thing, and the other one is called the wit. And the wit is a sort of forbidden, kind of sinful, dirty feeling, taboo kind of magic, which is not very common, and it has this kind of dirty, sinful connotation to it, and it's basically the ability to connect with animals and form really emotional bonds with them. And it's just really wonderful how Robin Hobb crafts the skill and the wit, these abilities, and how it's just amazing. You have to read these books to understand what I want to convey here. But I particularly loved the exploration of the wit. I think it's very much food for thought. However, this is not a perfect trilogy. I mean, the books individually have really good moments and some not so great moments. Overall, I would say that the Farseer trilogy is definitely greater than the sum of its parts. And it has some wonderful characters and moments and scenes that have become ingrained in my brain forever, but they're not perfect. It's not a perfect trilogy by any means. So I think the biggest complaint that I and many other readers usually have, and that I have with this trilogy, is that the execution is not always on point. You can see that Robin Hobb is trying to come up with many things at once, and she is successful in some instances and not successful in some other instances. This is much clearer in the third book, which I will talk about quickly in a second, because that book really exemplifies everything that Robin Hobb is not successful at in this trilogy. But overall, I would say, even though it has its negative sides in terms of how it can be very slow, very repetitive, and bloated for no reason, and some good moments just are not really explored enough, I would say that it still manages to be greater than the sum of its parts. Okay, so now I want to go over each book quickly and tell you some of my impressions so that you can consider picking these books up, and I really think that you should. So the first one is Assassin's Apprentice. I gave this book 4.5 stars. It was almost perfect, except for some action scenes at the end, which I thought were a little bit sort of confusing and disorienting. And yeah, that's another negative side of this entire trilogy. Personally, for me, I think Robin Hobb is not that great yet here at writing action and, sort of battle sequences and all of that. But putting that aside, I thought this book was near perfect. It's very short. It's less than 400 pages, which is very short for a fantasy novel. I think the writing was really, really beautiful and really evocative, and it immediately pulled me in from chapter 1. I was hooked. I really loved the character of Fitz growing up, especially at the beginning. I just really immediately sort of went there with him and wanted to take care of him. Then some other wonderful characters that I loved from here. The character of Burich. Some people pronounce it Burich, but I always pronounced it Burich for some reason. I really, really loved that character. I think I cried because of that character. There's another character, Shade, which some people pronounce Chade, but it's pronounced Shade. That's the way that even Robin Hobb herself pronounces it. Shade is a very interesting character, and Lady Patience as well. Many great characters, and it's a great introduction. The second book is Royal Assassin, and this one is the best one of the entire trilogy. This is so good. I think I gave it maybe 4.5 stars as well, or maybe even 5 stars. I honestly don't quite remember, but this is the best one. It's chunkier. It's 650 pages, which is, it's still pretty reasonable for a good character-driven, slower kind of fantasy novel. The pacing is really good. We get to see more deeper levels of Fitz's story. The ending is absolutely brilliant, and it took me by surprise. Not only by surprise, but it just left me in a state of wonder. So I was really excited going into the third installment, Assassin's Quest, and this book is pretty terrible. I mean, there's no way of sugarcoating how bad this book really is, especially considering how good these two previous ones had been. This one just fails. It's incredibly long. It's almost 900 pages long, and it has no reason being that long. It should have been maybe half its size or even shorter than that, in my opinion. I think this book had many shortcomings, to put it nicely. I was very irritated and annoyed, but it still manages to have some amazing character development moments, and some wonderful chapters, some very highly evocative scenes and settings and conversations between characters. There's one chapter in here which was my favorite chapter of the entire trilogy. But really, it all comes down to the ending. The ending is so bad. I mean, it's just not well executed. It's a trilogy that sadly just doesn't know how to end, and it suffers a lot in terms of pacing and the rhythm. It becomes so boring for no reason, and then the ending is incredibly rushed, and I felt like I was robbed of something really great. So I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. That's a very low rating, but overall I would say that the trilogy is much greater than the sum of its parts, and I think it goes a long way to. It's really important for me to say, and for you to take away from this video, that even though this book is not good, because it objectively is not good, the book as a whole becomes a tapestry. This might sound a little corny, but it really does become a tapestry of great characters, great moments, great writing, great conversation and dialogue scenes that become a part of you as a reader. And that's why I would recommend the Farseer books, even though this one is not good. Overall, it's really great. So finally, my conclusion for this video, and what I want you to take away from this video, is even though there are some ups and downs, very clear ups and downs in this trilogy, it is absolutely a series that the more I think about it, the more I grow fond of it, and the more I love it for what it is. It's like, a friend that you don't always get along with, but you really want them in your life. That's how I feel about the Farseer trilogy. And my favorite part of reading the Farseer trilogy is that I really loved Robin Hobb as a writer, as an author, and as a voice. So reading the Farseer books prompted me to read the Live Ship Traders trilogy, which is the next trilogy in the realm of the Elderlings. And let me tell you, all of the shortcomings that I found and all of the unsuccessful bits that I criticized from the Farseer trilogy, that is all gone in these books, the Live Ship Traders. I am halfway through the second book in the series, which is The Mad Ship. So I can tell you that from what I've read so far, this is a perfect trilogy. There's nothing that I can criticize about the Live Ship Traders. Ship of Magic, which is book 1 in that trilogy, is absolutely perfect. There's nothing to say in negative terms about I mean, it's just astonishing how good these books are, and you do have to read the Farseer books in order to really grasp some things about the live ship traders, in my opinion. Although they are somewhat interchangeable, you can read the live ship traders and then move on to the Farseer books. But I would recommend doing it the other way around, because I think you might get a similar experience to mine, where the Farseer books were so-so, but good overall, but with several shortcomings. And this is just like wonderful. It's astonishing that Robin Hobb managed to correct all of her mistakes in writing and in editing and in storytelling, and she just shines in the live ship trader. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel when you're reading that horrible book, Assassin's Quest, which seems like it's never going to end. Just think that this is the light at the end of the tunnel. I hope you read the Farseer trilogy. I hope you fall in love with the characters and with Robin Hobb, and that you, just like me, fall in love with the realm of the Elderlings. Thanks for watching. I am Just One Reader, and I will see you on the next video.